Hi there, my friends. Welcome again to Indian Story Read Along. Today we have an illustrated storybook called Fatima's Great Outdoors. So this is about a little girl from India and her family who immigrated to the US. And they want to do things that are typically American. They want to try to fit into their new home. This is by Ambreen Tariq and illustrated by Stevie Lewis. Fatima and her appa stood at the curb and waited for their parents to pick them up from school. Today, they weren't going straight home. Today, the Qazi family was going camping for the first time. Camping, her father had told them over dinner in his teaching voice, was a great American pastime. The trip felt like Fatima's reward after a long, hard week. On Monday, some kids wrinkled their noses at her lunch. This happened to me, and I'm sure it happened to a lot of other kids from other cultures if they are in a place where there are mostly white people and mostly white children. And I think that a lot of families who are white need to have this talk with their kids about how you don't act weird around people from other cultures. You can ask what's in the food, but you don't look at it like it's gross. That's not kind at all. On Tuesday, someone in class laughed and told her it's pronounced fractions, not fractions. And that's definitely not kind, because if Fatima has an accent, she knows more than one language, whereas this child probably just knows English. On Wednesday, a boy pulled on her long braid in the hallway. That also happened to me. And these are the kind of things that happen when you're different in a place where everyone else looks the same. And on Thursday, she didn't do so well on her math quiz. Fatima smiled when her parents pulled up. The sisters piled into the car, squeezing in between pillows, blankets, and a big cardboard box filled with cooking supplies. "Wow, this is a lot of stuff," Fatima yelled. "Are we moving to the forest?" Mama asked the girls in Urdu if they were excited as she reached back to hand them warm, homemade samosas. The girls nodded vigorously with jack-o'-lantern smiles. Mama's samosas always tasted extra delicious on road trips. "How about some Gane?" Papa asked. Mohammed Rafi, he's a famous singer, his voice rose from the car speakers and Bollywood songs spilled out from the windows. Fatima's cares melted away as they all sang along in Hindi. So think about it, I was actually right. Fatima not only knows more than one language, she knows three: English, Urdu, and Hindi. And so if you hear somebody who has an accent, you need to understand, especially people in the West need to understand, they are multilingual. Appa shouted over the music and announced to the whole car how well she had done on her math homework. Appa's teacher even asked her to come to the front of the class and solve a hard problem on the board that most of the other kids had gotten wrong. "Shabash," Papa said with pride. That's like kudos, yeah. Appa went on and on about school. Fatima slumped in her seat and ate another samosa. She's not too happy with school with how she did on her math test, right? So then, as Fatima thought about how to change the topic, her big sister pointed out the window and shouted, "Look, we're here!" The family cheered as they passed the sign for the state park. At the campsite, the girls helped their parents unload. "First," Papa said, "we must build our tent." Appa and Mama chose to start dinner instead. Fatima watched as Papa took the tent gear out of a sack. So he's going to try to do this, but he's going to struggle a little bit. That's what happens with anything if you're trying it for the very first time. Papa grumbled in Urdu when the pieces wouldn't fit. Fatima wanted to help, but could she? She hadn't done anything right at school that week. What would make the campground any different? Oh, there, Papa's still struggling with this thing. Then, Fatima took a tiny step closer. She suggested to Papa that they read the instruction manual together. Papa's like, "I don't need that. I'm just going to figure it out." But then guess what happens when they read the manual? When they finished, Fatima stood proudly next to their brand new home in the forest. Shabash, Papa's bare paw clapped her shoulder. So maybe she wasn't great at math, but Fatima's great at a lot of other things. She did something important for her family. The Qazi family celebrated the start of their first camping trip over a delicious dinner of shami kebab and rotis that Mama had brought from home. There they are. Mama prepared everything. Samosas, this. Thought of everything, Mama, like most mamas. After dinner, Fatima and Appa crawled into the family tent. They were so excited to snooze in their new sleeping bags. They never had rooms of their own, not even in India, so being together in one big tent felt cozy and right. The girls zipped up their sleeping bags and chattered on as their parents finished cleaning up. Appa was telling Fatima about how she won her class spelling bee when suddenly her face dropped. She gasped and pointed to the tent ceiling. 8 long, giant legs gripped the outside of their tent. There they are. A monster! The girls screamed and huddled together. They cried out for Mama. She was fearless and would know what to do. When they lived in India, Mama would catch the lizards and throw them out without flinching. Oh my gosh, I just could not deal with lizards when I was in India. Oh my gosh. That's why she had that funny finger, Appa said. She had been getting rid of a scorpion from her house when it stung her. Oh, wow. Scorpions are deadly. Mama is brave. The monster moved across the roof, and the girls screamed again. What's going on? Mama shouted over the sound of dishes being washed. The Qazis didn't use paper plates because they were too expensive. Mama, don't open the tent, Appa yelled. There's a giant poisonous spider monster outside. Don't be silly, it's tiny, Mama replied impatiently. Go brush your teeth before bed. Mama held the tent door flaps, and on the count of 3, the girls ran out. They followed the same precautions coming back inside. 1, 2, 3. They zoomed into their sleeping bags in a single fluid motion. That night, Fatima had a hard time falling asleep. Crickets chirped and wind blew against their tent. She flinched every time a twig snapped. But soon, as the trees swayed outside, Fatima's eyes got heavy and she drifted into a warm, deep sleep that only campers enjoy. Soft snores drifted outside the Qazi's tent and joined the sounds of the forest. The next morning, Fatima woke up to the smell of anda and roti cooking in ghee. Anda is eggs. Papa was waiting for her to make the bacon over a roaring fire. He had promised Fatima that they could have bacon for breakfast just like the other American families. They had even made a special trip to the halal butcher shop for the beef kind. So Muslim families, if you don't know, don't eat anything coming from a pig. So they're not going to have bacon from a pig, but they have like the beef kind of bacon. Bahir aajo, Papa called for them to come outside. I'm really sorry, I don't speak Hindi. I'm Tamil and Western. So my Hindi's really, it doesn't exist. The sisters crept out slowly. Well, there's just waking up. Mama pointed at the top of the tent between chuckles. Go look at your big monster, she said. A harmless little daddy longlegs sat quietly between beads of morning dew. Not Mountain Dew. It had been guarding them from mosquitoes all night. The girls laughed and laughed. Mama and Papa laughed too. Fatima was pretty sure the spider joined in as well. Let's start the campfire so we can make the smoky bacon you've been so excited about, Fatima, Papa said. 20 minutes later, there still was no campfire. Papa grumbled under his breath in Urdu. The fire wouldn't catch. Fatima looked around at the other families' campsites and they all had roaring fires. Why couldn't theirs look like that? Why did Fatima's family always have to be so different? She pouted and kicked rocks. Everyone has this feeling. They look around and they're like, why do we have to be the different ones? Papa kept spraying lighter fluid on the logs. The fire would scream for a second and then it would be gone. Mama came over to see what all the fuss was about. She shook her head and clicked her teeth in disapproval, the way Fatima's aunties did. That's the sound. When you're an auntie, you know how to do that. That's not how you start a fire. Let me show you, she said. A fire, like strength, takes patience to build. She made the girls gather twigs and dry leaves for kindling, then bigger sticks for tinder. Unlike Papa, who grew up in big cities in India, Mama came from a small town where they had to use a wood-burning stove outside to make chai, tea, when they ran out of gas for the inside stove. Mama remembered visiting her Nani's house and helping one morning. Mama showed Fatima how to use a long metal pipe to breathe oxygen into the fire. That's how it comes alive, she had said. Fatima remembered that when it was her turn, she'd blow a giant puff of air into the fire, but no one had told her not to inhale right after. She got a mouthful of smoke and started coughing. Her cousins had howled with laughter at the city girl. Well, now you know, Mama had said, rubbing Fatima's back as she coughed. Fatima smiled at that memory and watched wide-eyed as Mama blew life into the campfire. Though Fatima hadn't built the fire herself, now she knew how. As the Ghazi family packed up, Fatima's heart felt heavy. I'm so sad, she told Appa. I don't want to go home. Home means no laughing around the campfire or telling funny stories from India. Look at all the fun they had. Home means no long road trips with fresh samosas and Bollywood sing-alongs in the car. Home means taking tests, doing homework, getting in trouble and being teased at school. Home meant Mama and Papa would be tired again from working long hours and 2 jobs each. This is how it is for a lot of immigrant families. It's not fun to pick up your entire life and move to the other side of the world. It's a long time before you can get your footing. Fatima looked at the tall trees and the big blue sky and the imprints in the dirt where their tent used to stand. Being outdoors reminded her of how she used to feel in India. She had fun. She didn't feel sad or scared, and she loved how adventure was around every corner. At the campground, Fatima felt like a superhero, but now she had to leave it all behind. Appa rubbed Fatima's back and said, "Don't worry, we'll be back soon. Remember, you can share all this at show and tell." Fatima returned to school with stories of her great outdoors. "Guess what?" she asked her classmates. "I'm a superhero. I have lots of superpowers. I can build fires and tents, and I'm not afraid of spider monsters." Fatima beamed as she thought about what the Ghazi family's next camping adventure would hold. And look, they're going camping again. And I love this sign that these people here have. Brown people camping. Yes, be brave. Try something that you haven't done. And I don't know if I should say this, but I've never been camping, and I kind of don't want to. But I have tried different things, just not this. So this story was Fatima's Great Outdoors, and it is by Ambreen Tariq and illustrated by Stevie Lewis. If you like this story and other kinds of stories featuring Indian characters or South Asian characters, then join us again on this channel, Indian Story Read Along. And if you liked it, then think about subscribing as well. We'll see you soon.